Hey everybody, this is Tracy here for another edition of A View from Tracy's Point, and we are here to recap Insecure Season 2, Episode 5, which was titled Hella Shock. So this was actually a pretty good episode of Insecure. I really enjoyed it, so let's go ahead and get started. So once again, Issa is feeling herself and her newfound freedom and her newfound freedom to just do what she wants, when she wants, how she wants to do it, with whomever she wants to do it with. So there was an opening scene with her and Daniel where she's like knocking on Daniel's door and talking about she got special delivery or something, Issa was saying. And I thought that whole little exchange was really cute. And I kind of like Issa and Daniel together. I think he's more of a fit for her than Lawrence is, because her and Lawrence just kind of seem like we're together and let's just stay together. Like there was nothing inspiring about their relationship. So Issa goes to work and Frida is giving her mad attitude about the whole thing at the school, where she won't call out the principal, for making the comments about the Hispanic kids. So I don't know why she's mad at Issa, and if she's so offended by it, forget what Issa said. Go ahead and say something to your boss and step up and be the hero. Okay, you ain't got to have Issa's permission if you are that upset and that offended by it. But what I really think is going on is that Frida is having like her white privilege moment, and that she wants to be the great white hope, and because somebody else is stepping in. So even though the Mr. Gaines guy is making some inappropriate comments, I mean, he ain't like straight out racist, but he's just saying stuff that everybody else say, and using stereotypes and everything. But I think it's really bothering her that she can't come in and be the hero of the hour, that he has kind of like taken control and placed them like in a dependent role, whereas he's the one that's making the kids come to them. They're not the ones that's changing the minds and the attitudes of the kids and getting the kids to come to the program. So I think Frida really needs to check herself, because then their boss told them that they had to come in on Saturday morning for a workshop, and so they go in for this unpaid workshop, as one of the co-workers pointed out, that they was getting some free labor out of them. But basically they it was Issa, Frida, and I think it was a guy and maybe one girl were called up to the front of the room, and they were given a scenario about a student acting out in class, and like, what do you think is the problem? So now everybody was making their little stereotypical comments. They were stereotyping the situation as if it was some little poor child that, needed rescuing, and, coming up with these scenarios as to why the child were acting out, as if like they come from a bad home, they come from, a home where drug dealing is taking place, that kind of craziness. And then Issa, had to step up and say something. So I'm thinking, so Frida, you were just so upset about Mr. Gaines making the comments about the Hispanic kids, but yet you're standing in this room with your white co-workers who are basically doing the same thing, and you have absolutely nothing to say, but you're mad at Issa, and you're telling Issa that she's out of line. Oh, and then she also told Issa told her that she was being privileged by choosing, what she was going to get upset about. And then Frida told Issa that she expected more from her. I'm just like, girl, if you don't go somewhere and have a seat, because ain't nobody got time for this. And then I don't know if these two dark-haired girls in the team, if they're like Middle Eastern or what their nationalities are, but they just have so many slick comments to make, and just like they don't want to be there, they're unbothered. And so Issa and Frida are the only two that even seem to care about the work that they're doing. The rest of them, it's like just a job there. Like, we're going to do enough to get by and collect a paycheck, and then we out. So when they had a break, or maybe it was the end of the day, Issa was in the bathroom. And so she calls her brother to vent about how Frida is treating her. And so the brother was kind of like, okay, well, did you do this? Well, did you say that? Well, why did you do that? So Issa got mad, cussed him out, and hung up on him. And, you know, that's kind of stuff we do. So it gets a little tricky in the bathroom, because then somebody texts Issa, and I couldn't tell if it was the guy from next door, because didn't she save him in her phone as potential bae? I think that's who this is. But anyway, he does like a video text to her and telling her, you know, pretty much encouraging her to send him a picture. So Issa pulls up her shirt and takes a picture of her little tiny boobs and sends to the guy. And then one of the people from her team comes in the bathroom and catch her. And so she said, oh, I was just doing a breast exam. And the girl was like, nah, you just nasty. I'm like, oh my God. So Issa obviously didn't have enough of the sexting from that scene, because then we see her later on in the day after she done left the workshop, and she's stuck in traffic, and so she's texting with the same guy, and he sends her a picture of his penis. So somebody blew their horn at Issa. So Issa took off and ran into the back of a Suburban that was in front of her. I'm just like, oh my God. So she then just like tore up her car behind a picture of a dick. I'm just like, Issa, come on, girl, you got to get it together. So as she's waiting for the tow truck driver to come, she calls Daniel to let him know that, you know, she's not going to be able to meet up with him, and she didn't want him to think, you know, that she was flaking on him. So Daniel, you know, finds out that she's been in an accident. He's like, well, where are you? I'll come get you. So then Issa was like, oh, no, don't worry about it. I'll ride with the tow truck driver. And she said somebody, he got a yaki ponytail, so he probably ain't into her. But Daniel was like, no, girl, I'm going to come get you. Tell me where you're at. So Daniel shows up. And so you can tell that Daniel is catching feelings for Issa. So I don't know if Issa is afraid to let her guard down and maybe pursue what's going on, you know, what could happen with Daniel, or if she's just really caught up in her hoe mode. But she basically tells Daniel that, you know, need to clarify with him that they just kicking it, they seeing other people, ain't nobody catching no feelings or anything. So Daniel was looking at her like, okay, Issa, whatever. Like, I'm gonna play this game with you. So then we move over to Molly. So Molly is going to mess around and fall in love with that lawyer guy from Chicago. So they seem to have like really good camaraderie, and you know, and it's always the ones that you're saying, like, I don't like short guys, I don't like fat guys, I don't like light-skinned guys, I don't like whatever that person is that you don't like. You let your guard down with that person because you're thinking, like, I'm not attracted to this person, so we can go ahead and be friends and kiki and caca, and next thing you know, you done fell for him. And when he told Molly to bring him some them Roscoe's chicken and waffles, and next time she came back, and Molly said, I ain't gonna be the black person on the plane with the fried chicken. So I'm like, okay, Molly, let us find out that you're going to fall in love with him and move to Chicago. I know that ain't going to never happen, but I'm just saying. So I thought it was interesting to see Molly, you know, acting all mature, and now Issa is the one that's acting the fool and want to be free and sexually liberated on the show. But Molly is trying her best to get to Morocco, so I hope her and Issa, maybe on the last episode, they'll finally make it over there and have their little nice vacation. So it's Molly's parents' 35th anniversary, and they're hosting like this really big anniversary party at their house. So Molly gets to see Dro again, and they, you know, kind of talk about what happened the night of the wind down party, because she was there dropping off some floral arrangements that she had made for her mom. And so Molly says that she knew that Dro was drunk, so she wasn't paying him no attention. So he let her know he wasn't that drunk and that he was serious about what he said. So why is Dro's wife, like, is she on another trip, or is she still on the same trip she was on the night that they was at their party? So now he's pressing Molly, you know, to admit that she was thinking about, you know, giving it up to him, you know, even if it was just for a second, you know, but Molly was trying to fight her demons. And so she's like, please, you know, and so I was saying to myself, like, Molly, please be strong. Please don't get yourself caught up in no love triangle and then this girl feeling like you done betrayed her by sleeping with her man. And girl, stop clowning Dro about that too tight shirt he had on, because that seems to be the fashion trend with people walking around here, men walking around with these body fitting t-shirts and muscle shirts and all that stuff. So I don't even know what that's all about. So I thought that the camaraderie between Molly's family was so, energizing and gave like a whole nother perspective to the show instead of just being focused on her and Issa. Now we get to learn more about, how they got to where they are, their way of thinking. And so it makes me wonder if her parents being married that long is why Molly is so conflicted in her own life. And because somehow, like, does she feel like because she's not married that she somehow failed her parents, or did she grow up thinking that, okay, I come from this perfect two-family home, so I got to have that same life as my parents did, and now that that's not happening, it's kind of like messed her all up in her head. And if you saw my video on Black Love, I actually mentioned the fact, that my parents, when my dad passed away back in 2009, him and my mom had just celebrated their 46th wedding anniversary. And then one of my sisters just celebrated 29 years. And I didn't mention this in the video, but I also have a brother. And my brother, I think him and his wife probably have been married close to 40 years. So I've never been married. I was engaged once. I knew after that experience that I'll be okay being single. But I think we all, when we're younger, like in our early 20s and probably around the age that Molly is at, I did have that like, oh, I want to be married and all this stuff. But then once, I got around 30, it was just like, child, please, it ain't that serious to me. So I think that's probably why Molly is acting the way that she's acting. So if your dream life, is to be married, it can really mess you up if love doesn't come and you're just so focused on gotta get married, gotta have this perfect life. So that's probably where Molly's issues stem from. So after Molly had the little conversation with Dro when she was dropping off the flowers, I think she's decided, what, Dro ain't gonna tip me tonight. So she called Lincoln, who's played by Sterling Brown, and invited him to come to the party. And so Molly's brother, I think it was, confronted her and, was calling BS and like, why did you bring that man here? You fronting for the family and everything. And so he tells Molly that Lionel was her pity date. So it's just like, oh my God. So Molly points out his credentials, that he graduated from Penn State and that she wants to have the same kind of love that her parents have, and that, she has to start somewhere. So she decided to give him a chance. And so her brother was like, wrong answer, girl. But then something happened with the other brother. He had to walk off. So Molly ends up going to talk to her aunts. So her aunt Janice introduced her to her great aunt named Janice. And I had to laugh. I thought that was so funny because in the South, that is very common. Like all your aunts, your uncles, your great aunts and uncles, your grandparents, everybody, they just put them names on rotation. So like my grandmother's name was Mamie. I have an aunt who passed away earlier this year. Her name was Mamie. And then somebody else's name in the family is Mamie. And it's just, and as I'm working on our family history, I'm finding like it was just a lot of repetition, even on my dad's side of the family. So my dad's name was Julius. Then one of his brothers named his son Julius. And then I got like several cousins that are named Julius and a few like second cousins who are also named Julius. So that was a real popular name on my dad's side of the family. So as they were chatting, the younger Janice reveals that Molly's dad may have cheated on her mom like within the first 5 years of their marriage, because she was saying, she was surprised that they made it, that she can't believe that they made it to 35 years because she didn't think they was going to make it to the 5th year anniversary. So Molly freaks out and decides, that her parents, that their whole marriage is a lie and that they, deceived her and screwed her life up and all kind of nonsense Molly was talking about. And I'm just like, come on, Molly, like if your parents been married for 35 years and the infidelity took place in the first 5, that meant that they had 30 good years. So why are you tripping? So she's so pissed off, that her mom chose to stay with her dad. And then she like called her mom out and was like, why did you stay with him? And her mom was like, Molly, that happened like years ago, and then the dad was trying to say that it was a mistake, but Molly wasn't hearing it, so she storms out of the house. So Lionel sees her, and he tries to make sure that she's okay, but whatever Molly, that look on her face was, he was just like, oh, damn. So Dro steps up, and he said, oh, dude, you stay here. I'll go see about it and make sure she's okay. Next thing we know, Molly and Dro was in that car together, and he was taking Molly home, and they were talking in the car, and she was saying how upset she was, and he was trying to get her to understand that she was overreacting, but he understood her feelings and where she was coming from. So when he got her to her apartment building, he was like, he would call a lift to get home, and then Molly was like, okay, but then she turned around and grabbed Dro by the hand and pulled him upstairs, and it was all I can say. Dro, I was like, Dro was all up in that coonanny, like it was for real, like he was really getting it. I was like, whoa, okay, y'all doing it like that. But he loved Molly's hurt away, and I hope that they just make it a one night stand, because last thing they need is for this thing to blow up in their face. So overall, like I said, it was a really good episode, and I love how they have brought the family members into the show, highlighting the whole sister-brother relationships between Molly and her brothers, and then Issa and her brother. And I also like the juxtaposition of how Issa is turning into the person that Molly was in the last season, and Molly is realizing, how empty the behavior leaves you, and, it's really not the way that you want to go. So she's kind of like allowing Issa to have her moment, but at the same time, kind of like giving her the side eye, like, girl, this really ain't the road that you want to take. So now I just don't know how they're going to play this thing out with Dro. Like, is Molly going to just walk away, or is this going to turn into a whole other situation? Especially if his wife finds out what happens, or if they continue to like sneak behind her back, or continue to see each other and their feelings grow. So then we go over to Lawrence. Wasn't much happening with Lawrence in his situation. He, hanging out with his white coworkers again. So which one of them girls y'all think Lawrence gonna end up having sex with, the blonde chick or the dark-haired chick? Because we know it's coming. So Lawrence gets called for jury duty, but ends up getting himself dismissed from the case. And so I don't care how much he stalks Issa's social media page, it ain't gonna make him feel any better. And can we agree that it's neither cute nor sexy for a man to be stalking a woman's Facebook page, her friends' pages, and the friends and the page of the other guy that she's supposed to be messing with? And I know women do it all the time, but I just don't think it's cute when a man does it. So you go looking for trouble, like I said in the episode where Issa was stalking Tasha's page. You're going to find what you're looking for. So Lawrence comes across a photo of Issa and Daniel, from the night of the wind down party. And so now he's all on Issa's page, he on Kelly's page, and then he eventually makes his way over to Daniel's page. And I'm like, come on, Lawrence, let's not go that road. But he ain't got nothing else going on. He done dropped Tasha, or rather Tasha dropped him. He probably laying low because he don't want to end up in a situation like he did on the last episode. So that's why I really think he's going to end up with one of them girls that he works with. So he gets called in. So he's in the jury pool, which is okay for using your phone. But then he gets called into the jury stand where they're actually trying to narrow it down to the 12 jurors. And he all on his cell phone going through all these Facebook pages. And I'm just like, I can't even believe that they're allowing that to take place. But they had to dismiss Lawrence, told him to get on. Juror number 3, get on up out of here. And Lawrence was still like, and the judge said, okay, you can get out of here today. So Lawrence was like, oh, okay. So he gets up and leaves. So after he leaves the courthouse, he goes to meet up with Derek, who is Issa's friend Tiffany's husband. So he's picking Derek for information. So Derek was basically saying that him and Tiffany had made a decision that they weren't going to get involved in him and Issa's mess. And so he told Lawrence Lawrence started going off about Issa, still messing with Daniel and how he never thought she would be the type that would tip out. And, women are real low key with their dirt. And you better watch out because Tiffany, she could be doing something too. So Derek cut him off at the path and was like, you know what, you're part of the reason that you and Issa aren't together because, dude, you was unemployed for like 2 years. And that's so unattractive to a woman, which is true because ain't no way I'm going to be in a relationship with somebody who is not my husband and he can sleep on the sofa, he can sit on the couch while I go to work for 2 whole years. It ain't going down like that. I'm thinking like after a month, he would have had to take a job doing something because if I got to get up and go to work, dude, you got to get up and go to work also. I don't care how much money you had saved up in the bank. I just couldn't see myself staying with somebody who I'm not married to for 2 whole years and they don't have a job. So Lawrence, he was kind of like in his feelings after Derek broke that down to him, and he didn't want to hear all that. So that was pretty much all we saw of Lawrence. And that was the episode. So guys, let me know what you thought. Leave your comments below, rate the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And until the next time, I shall talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.